You're tuned in to Season 3 of the Bird Joy podcast, hosted by Dexter Patterson and Jason Hall. This podcast is for all the homies across the globe, a place to celebrate birds, community, and joy together. We're back with more stories from the birding world, more voices doing dope work in STEM, and more reasons to get outside and enjoy the birds. Are you ready for some bird joy? Let's go.
Today's guest is someone who brings the heat when it comes to environmental justice, biodiversity conservation, and straight up bird joy. She's a wildlife biologist, a passionate black birder, and a change maker. Corina Newsome is here with us today.
Yes, and as we're recording this episode, it's the first day of Black Birders Week. Corina was one of the first co-organizers, and the incredible crew at Black AF and STEM has since turned it into the global celebration and movement we know today.
Corina has a background in zoo and wildlife biology, has a master's in biology, a passion for bird conservation, and a deep commitment to ensuring that conservation also centers people, especially marginalized groups and people of color who have often been excluded for that conversation.
She is also a new mom, a fierce advocate, and a storyteller whose work powerfully connects science, justice, and joy. We've got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So let's get into it. And everybody, we are welcoming Corina Newsome to the Bird Joy podcast. Let's go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I couldn't even hold myself in. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting y'all while you're talking. Like,
It's all good.
But
it's the joy. It's the joy.
Yeah.
Joy is everywhere. Thank you all for having me. I'm honored. Those are such generous words. Thank you.
You got it. Let's start at the beginning. You know, young or youngish, Corina running around there years ago, out there experiencing the world. What moment or experience made you first fall in love with wildlife? And was that birds, or did birds come in later?
Birds came in way later. But I've loved wildlife from my first memories as a very young kid. And the books that I had at home, my parents and my grandparents really fostered my love of wildlife. And I remember having I think they're called Wildlife Fact Files book that has it's like a 3-ring binder with like you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
and the polar
exactly.
and the koala in there. Those are like distinct memories. That's where it really started for me. And of course, PBS shows I was watching on TV. I really felt like Steve Irwin was my uncle. Genuinely felt like he was my uncle. I'm talking about
Shout out to Steve Irwin and PBS, especially today. Shout out.
Like viewers like me, you know what I'm saying? And so that's where it started. And then it wasn't until I was almost done with my undergraduate career, right? I had studied, I had learned, I had worked at my local zoo in Philadelphia. Like, I wasn't thrilled about birds. I really didn't care much about birds. And I was just thinking about the ornithology class I had to take as this thing to get off the, check box to get out of undergrad, right? And I was actually not looking forward to it because of how many birds I knew you had to memorize. And so, but when I got in there, my professor, the first thing I remember is my professor was so, to the name of this podcast, joyful, like in a weird way that I had not seen any professor be excited about the subject they were teaching. Even him, like I had other classes with him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, are you okay? Like I genuinely was like, am I missing something? Because I think I had mammalogy with the same professor, and he was chill. He was relaxed. Mammals, cool, right? Birds. I said, I'm missing something. And then the first time he started showing us like some local birds, I caught it. It like jumped onto me before I knew anything. His joy about birds jumped onto me, and it stuck with me and it's grown into my own joy since then. And we still vibe on birds. Very grateful for him. His name is Dr. Jason Corder. But yeah, I didn't know or think or care about birds. I was like 22 years old.
Shout out to Dr. Jason. Jason,
hey,
what's up? Hey, in Philadelphia, what's going on here? I'm coming to Philly this week, and now I'm even more excited.
Oh, listen. I went to school in Ohio, which is fine, but Philly is where it's at. It's at.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that out loud, because I feel like the people need to know, right? This is where it's at. This is where it's at.
That's so cool. So the bird joy is what got you.
Yep.
I always tell people, don't, you go into some of these traditional birding spaces and they're telling people to be quiet, and like you got people in there like holding their joy back, it's like, why? Like you literally don't understand that letting that joy out could literally spark something in a person like it did you. And I love that story so much, so much. When I think about, over the last few years, Corina, I've been following your path a little bit from working in zoos and doing field research, national advocacy. Is there a standout moment or moments in your career so far that make you really proud?
That's a great question. I think I would have to say, so the moment that comes to my mind, and Jason, I was thinking about this on my drive back home from the grocery store, from the farmer's market. I heard an indigo bunting, and I was like, for some reason that made me think of when I came home to Philly and went on one of the birding trips you led, like in Wissahickon Park somewhere, something like that. And that was my first time birding in my hometown. I had never been birding in Philadelphia because I didn't catch the bird joy till after I left for college. And my mom and sister and niece were there. That was the proudest I ever felt, because they don't really know a whole lot about what my work entails, or, like the community of birders or anything, right? And people were just saying nice things. I think someone had said something nice about me or something. And my mom started crying. Like, she just was so proud just to be on on this birding trip where I knew a whole bunch of people, and we were all just excited about birds and excited to see each other and be with each other. And like, I've never been birding with my mom or my family. So that it was like so many firsts there. And I was just so excited to be able to show my mom, like, look how beautiful this is, and we get to do this together. So that's what stands out in my mind.
That reminds me, like we just we interviewed Kojo Baidu, and young black man, young birder, and he was talking about how his parents aren't really into it. And I was saying, you know what they probably just care about is seeing you make an impact. And he's making this impact, and that's probably what your mom saw. And she was like, holy cow, my daughter is making an impact on these people. And listen to what they're saying about her. Look how inspired they are by my baby. And I guarantee that's what made her cry. Right?
That's exactly it. Because trust me, like I made sure she knew the impact Corina had on me the first time I saw her on the screen, and when I realized she was from Philly, and when we got to bird together, and that was Sam's event, right? Sam.
Shout out to Sam.
Sam Desjardins out there at the Always Be Birding podcast. So go check that out, folks. Yeah, that was a great event. And I think we all went up to your mom and told her how much we appreciated you and how much pride we had in you being from Philly, and the way you kind of kicked the door open in 2020. So yeah, we got to give you your flowers a little bit. I mean, I'm not trying to make you blush or anything, but like
you're about to make me cry right now.
I'm sorry, but you need to know.
Hey, it's real though. I always tell people you kind of gave me this proof of concept when I first started, when I didn't really know what I was necessarily doing. And you had shared one of my videos. You're like, this is one of my favorite birders. And I was like,
I remember that.
I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Right. And I'm like, I don't even know if I had 1,000 followers at that time. And I was like, this is amazing. Right. Like, I was like, this is so cool. So like, I don't know. I've seen you do this with a lot of people, and we appreciate you. We appreciate the love that you share, using your platform for good. We're talking about that a little bit, and we'll get into that. But you're always out there like showing people the homies, like I just love it. Like I'll see Al on your page all the time.
Hey,
like I'm always seeing the homies, and I'm like, man, Corina gets it. Like she just gets it. So,
and I'm grateful for y'all, and I'm grateful for each of you, because you bring something so refreshing yourselves. And Jason, you said something several years ago about like how birding has become part of your expression of blackness, right? Like it just was versus this separate thing that you had to almost justify, like you know what I mean? Because it felt, because of what I thought of when I thought of birding, and you really crystallized that for me. And then Dexter, like when I first saw your videos and just how untethered you were, like as far as I should say untethered. That sounds bad, but like you didn't allow your joy to be held back. Like you were as excited as you were, and then you expressed it out. I'm like, that's in a black man. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And then the third thing I want to say, I want to go back to Sam really quickly. So when my niece was on this the bird walk that we were talking about, we were going around, I think, saying our favorite birds, and Erin said my niece, she was like, my favorite bird is the house sparrow. And Sam went up to her and was like, listen, she was talking about how people say they don't like house sparrows and don't like starlings, for example, right? And was explaining this and how people have called them trash birds, but she's like, they're beautiful, and I'm so glad you like them. And she asked, like, why is a house sparrow your favorite? And Aaron said, because they're the easiest to see. And like that, and I feel like I'm gonna cry just even thinking about that. But Aaron has asked about Sam frequently since then. Like, I remember when Sam remembers her name and everything. So I'm grateful for Sam, and I'm grateful for all of you for the ways you've poured into me and my family.
I always tell people, don't be a joy jacker. That's something that I started saying at Biggest Weekend Burden. Jason was there.
Oh,
and I'm like, because there are a lot of people that will steal somebody's joy. And shout out to Sam for nurturing a person and really listening to them and understanding, like, this is important, right? If they're saying this is their favorite bird, the last thing you want to be is a joy jacker and say, but it's a house sparrow. They're awful. And there are people out there that do that stuff.
Yes, they do.
Oh, that's just this, or that's just that. I saw 20 of those last week. Who cares? Like, nobody cares. Shut up. Nobody cares. Like, let this person have their moment. And shout out to Sam, because people don't realize that does mean something to especially young people. And the fact that this young person still remembers Sam's name, that's impact. That's impact. So allow people to be joyful.
Yeah, I think we gotta first see if Sam is back from Asia, because I know she'd be spending time.
You know what? She texted me. I didn't text her back. I think she is. Let me. You know what?
Yeah. I think we gotta talk to Sam, Dex. I think she's doing an event this week too. But
I agree.
That kind of validation in the moment is special, and to get it from people that look like us, I mean, I think that is what Black AF and STEM was going for, and they have certainly achieved that over 6 years now of Black Birders Week, and it's absolutely tremendous. And I wanted to kind of back up a little bit, Corina, if you don't mind, and talk about some of your grad work. You focused on landscape ecology and bird conservation, and what questions did you kind of hope to answer with that pathway? And like, was that your first choice in your grad work? Was that something that you kind of got led to, or like talk us through how you ended up doing that kind of research?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it in some ways. There's a website by the Wilson Ornithological Society that lists graduate advisors who study ornithology. It's a very comprehensive list. We're very lucky in the bird world to have that. So I just was scrolling, and I found this school, Georgia Southern University, where a professor studied what I wanted to study. And so I did all I had to do. I rushed, took the GRE, did all this stuff, and got in. But at the time that I was available to go to grad school, his lab was full. And then, so I had to wait a whole year. And then I got an email, hey, we have a new professor who's joining the university. She needs graduate students. Would you be interested? So we had a conversation. She said, I study seaside sparrows. Never heard of a seaside sparrow in my life, because I've never been to like southeastern coasts ever. Didn't even know Georgia had a coast when I moved south. I promise you. And so I just kind of jumped into it. I had never been to a salt marsh, which is where the species lives. Wow. And I came to find out. So when I first came down to meet Elizabeth Hunter, who's my advisor, such an incredible woman and advisor and teacher. And she took me out into the marsh just so I could know what I was getting myself into. Because I'm like, marsh, grass, it seems like one of the easier ecosystems. When I tell you, she had me marching out there, this mud, every single step you took, you were pulling your leg out of mud, right? And within 15 minutes, I'm out of breath. I can barely walk. And I'm sitting here like, I just upped my, I relocated myself. I left my job. I went to school, and I don't even know if I can walk in this ecosystem. She saw the panic on my face. She said, Corina, it's okay. If you want to completely switch your project, you can, right? And I said, no, I'm going to do this. And so before I get into what I was studying, before my first field season, Beyonce's Coachella performance aired on Netflix. I think it came out. I watched, because I didn't know how I was going to get through the season. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I watched her Coachella performance, and in this kind of documentary, she was describing how she had just had these twins, how she was dealing with like all of these physical health challenges, how she had to get into this regimen to even do Coachella right. Something about this documentary, I said, oh, I can do this field season. I'm trying to tell you, I can't explain it, but had I not seen that, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. The way that she described how she pushed me through, and I made it through that field season. So shout out to Beyonce for many reasons.
I love it.
So for my research, so landscape ecology is essentially studying how features of landscapes, which vary depending on where you are, impact ecology, impact the way that organisms interact or are impacted by their surroundings, by their ecosystem. And so I was studying the seaside sparrow, and the questions I was answering was related to their breeding success, their nesting success, I should say. And I wanted to understand if their proximity, their closeness to roadways or closeness to kind of some main water bodies impacted essentially their exposure to predators, or the likelihood that their nests would get found and eaten by a predator. And that required a lot of remote sensing. So I had camera traps and video cameras out in the marsh that I would put out there. And then it really was like Christmas morning, going out, getting my SD cards back, and then flipping through, tens of thousands of pictures, right? It's very grueling, but when you find something, it's like, wow, I got to peel back the curtain on this ecosystem that you don't get to see unless you happen to be studying it. So I felt so lucky. And essentially, we found that these landscape features do impact nesting success in certain ways. And the reason why we want to ask these kinds of questions for coastal birds is because sea level rise, climate change is going to be shrinking their available habitat. And once they kind of get past the threshold of habitat availability, of imperilment, essentially like how threatened they are by the changing climate, there are going to be some management practices that will have to change. And so understanding predation and the patterns of it, depending on where birds are on the landscape, will help wildlife managers, natural resource managers, to be able to properly, for example, if necessary, employ predator exclusion devices or like management techniques to protect from predation, like employing new adaptive techniques. So essentially that was the work. And in the middle of that, though, I got a camera, I got an SD card back from one of the video cameras. And there was this one night where a nest that had an egg and a newly hatched chick that day. The nest had those two individuals in there. It was a super high tide. So tidal birds of any kind really they have to deal with flooding twice a day, in the Atlantic coast. And this particular day, the tide was super high. It flooded the whole nest. The baby and the egg were like floating on the top, essentially, of the water. And a fish jumped into the nest because of how high the water was and ate the chick, like ate parts of the chick, I should say, killed the chick. And it essentially revealed that flooding is in itself a threat, right? They can drown, they can lose their ability to regulate the temperature and essentially, die from that. But predators now can enter the nest because it's flooding. And so we published that paper, and that was just like, that wasn't even the focus of my research, but it's like, wow, the things you can uncover while you're looking for something else are just amazing. So that's kind of captures what the research was looking like.
That's incredible.
I know. I'm just thinking, from watching a Beyonce video to publishing papers. Shout out to the perseverance.
Listen,
Shout out to the
seriously.
perseverance.
Look, I was gonna say Philly don't go out like that. So you had to hype them boots up and get it going. I mean, we wasn't about to let you come back here talking about it was too deep in the swamp. Nah, man, you better get it.
Right. And the crazy thing is, so in like any given graduate department, right, peers will be like, hey, I'll help you collect research, collect data. I'll go out in the field with you. And people would just do that just for fun or just to help out. And I would have people come up to me and offer, like, and it'd be dudes, right? Hey, yeah, you want me? Can I go out in the field with you and just like go? And I'm sitting here like, they wouldn't believe me. I would say, I appreciate it, but I don't want to have to rescue you because I will probably have to, right? Like, it is not what you think. I've been trying to tell people it's not what you think, right? Tell me why. And I won't mention any names, so hopefully he doesn't hear this and won't think of himself. But big old dude, football player, brolicky type dude, he insisted. He's like, I'll be fine. And I'm thinking, you're big, like... You're going to sink. Right? Took his ass out there. Yeah, took him out there. Why? Within an hour... I thought he was going to pass out because there's also no shade, no trees. You're just out in the grass, and it's coastal Georgia in the summer. I'm talking about, I thought I was going to have to call EMS. I'm way ahead of him in the marsh, and I just see him sinking, falling, right? And then eventually he just goes back to the car. We're so far apart that I can't hear him. He just walks back to his car. I was like, thank you.
Oh, he should have gone back home and watched that Coachella concert. That's what he should have done. Get his life together.
Send him the link.
Oh, man.
And I hate to, look, I appreciate it, right? I appreciate it, but it's just hard to, until you go out there, you don't really know.
You're not about that life, bro. You ain't about this life, bro. You ain't about this life. Hey, sticking with your work. This is the Bird Joy podcast. I'm crying laughing right now. Your work lives at this intersection of conservation and also justice. What's that connection? Why is that so personal and essential to the work that you do?
I think it feels personal because my educational experience from high school, college, grad school never included any element that had anything to do with people or people's realities, and certainly not the realities of like Black people, poor people, people who are in any way in the margins of society. And it wasn't until I was in grad school, like obviously I understood injustice, right? But I never made the connection between, I don't know, like environment or conservation and injustice or conservation and justice until I was in graduate school and got connected with great people like Deja Perkins. She was one of the first researchers who I learned from, like how these things are connected, because she studies the relationship between like race and income and participatory science data, which is a huge source of data about biodiversity for conservation and policy. Her research kind of showed, that there's a relationship between race and income and where there's data. And she has since graduated with her master's and her PhD. She's now Dr. Deja Perkins. So excuse me, we put some respect on her name. That was the first time I had heard that. And so since then, I have made a lot of connections. I've drawn a lot of connections between my personal experience, the experience of my family and friends in different parts of the country, like the injustices that they experience, that they're dealing with, and how conservation has either contributed to the problem or could, if you were intentional about it, contribute to the solution. And so my work since graduate school has been trying to find ways, like how can we ensure that the resources that exist in the realm of conservation, whether it's technical expertise or funding or policy, how can we make sure that the solutions we're trying to generate in those realms also advance environmental justice, and in fact are just part of it. Like it's not just like there's this and that. These are the same driven. The issues we're dealing with are driven by the same thing. But if you try to solve the problem without thinking about people, you're going to create a bigger problem. And so that's kind of where it came from, and it became very personal, especially as I've gotten connected with more experts who think about this, not just people in academia, just people who are paying attention and have some wisdom. And a lot of my elders in my community and elders in other communities, especially here in Georgia, like I've had the honor of meeting several like Gullah Geechee elders here who have just painted the picture so clearly for like how conservation issues are environmental justice issues or justice issues.
I love it. It's so inspiring to watch you use your platform and to make those connections for people. So shout out to you.
Shout out to these folks who dedicate their lives, man. Yeah,
we've been doing this for a while, right?
Right.
Our elders and a lot of people don't realize, like, we've been doing this stuff. We've been having connections to the land and understanding the importance of that connection. So yeah, shout out to the elders.
Yeah. And I wonder, considering that connection and then considering Black Birders Week highlighting these gaps in representation and conservation work, right? Representation and environmental justice work. We have organizations popping up all over to try and meet that gap, right? And fill that space. Organizations like Field Inclusive. I wonder, with those organizations popping up and being very successful, are they showing you something, Corina? Have you seen a shift in conservation work regarding centering equity for voices in the Black, Indigenous, and communities of color, or not? Are you not seeing enough?
Yeah, so I would say there was definitely a period of time, right, where I saw that. There were organizations, including National Wildlife Federation. That's actually how I came where I work now. That's how I came to even know about them, because they were very explicit and in where their money was going, dedicating a lot of resources to this. But since Black Birders Week, I've seen so many of these programs or positions or new granting opportunities come online that would kind of reflect organizations' commitment to it. But what we're seeing now is that who's really about it and who's not. And one of the things that have been frustrating about what we've been seeing happen and experiencing happen since January, what was that, 20th or something? I don't when we got the clown back in office. But the people whose first priority is their power and I don't mean to use catchphrases, but literally, like, organizations whose leadership, for example, have a lot of close personal connections inside the Beltway, like in DC. Like they have relationships that they don't want to risk because they want to be as close to power as possible, and they want to be able to advance their agendas, right? And so they're thinking, well, we'll sacrifice the efforts and resources that we've dedicated to Black and brown people for my long-term gain, right? That's just... And so many organizations have done that. And it's not been surprising, but it's been like, are y'all embarrassed? Can you at least be embarrassed? Just be embarrassed, be ashamed a little bit. You know what I mean? And so it's the equity and the justice thing, priorities are for moments like this. That's why we do this. And so the fact that so many have dropped out or tried to rebrand their efforts are demonstrations that they were never about equity or justice. And so yeah, like I think the ones that have stuck it out and continue to walk the walk, there's ebbs and flows, ups and downs, depending on the pressure. And we're into pressure.
A lot of performative folks out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was just a little show.
Yeah. And part of that is, just talking about some other nonprofits that I talk to, right? It's like those conversations the board has, right? Those are real conversations of like, what keywords are they looking for in grant applications that we rely on, and it's interesting to hear people's opinions on just what you said, Corina, like sacrificing our morals to maintain power or funding based off of federal dollars because of this. And it's just, I don't think many organizations realize that people notice, and that's going to have a longer term impact than maybe some of the sacrifices you have to make over the next 4 years, So it's tough. And I think people should use this moment as a learning moment too, right? Because we got to be in it for the next 4 years either way, right? And for the next time, because this won't be the last time either that someone comes for our communities, whether it's in nature or outside of nature, right? And today is the infamous anniversary of George Floyd's death, and I'm already seeing clown behavior out there, right? Showing that we haven't really moved as far as we thought we have, right? So this is a good reminder to folks, like this is your opportunity to be on the right side of history. So
Facts.
But can I say one more thing though? One of the things that I think this is forcing us, like folks like us, to do. So like when Lauren and Murray created their nonprofit, and when other people, young folks, Black and brown folks, have created these organizations, it's this political context that we're in, and financial, et cetera, context forces us to create networks of resources that are not directly tied or so impacted by federal fluctuations and political fluctuations, when we've always needed that. Like the conservation movement, the environmental justice movement needs to be a network of locally connected resources so that we can survive and we can work. And we're having to do that now because there's really no other options, but like we have to maintain this work to connect ourselves to one another and put our resources together, mutual aid. You know what I mean? Like that's become a more widely understood concept. And I think that you can scale mutual aid up in many ways, even whether it's favorable or not. Keep our local connections strong. And so I'm very grateful for organizations like Field Inclusive that have really been building that kind of network up.
The people that are collaborating are winning, and will continue to win. So we got to collaborate more. We got to have each other's backs. And then the people that are going to reach out to folks like us that are actually doing the work, be like, we see what you did, man. I ain't trying to work with you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Go dance over there for somebody else. I don't got time for that. We definitely see the people that truly care about the cause and want to help move things forward. And we also see the people that are doing what you said, Corina, just worried about their own careers and power and placating to some really, for a lack of a better term, evil stuff that is kind of trifling, spreading across our country. It's so sad because they come at us first. They're attacking not only our organizations and grant fundings and people that support our organizations, but they're literally attacking environmental justice as a whole and really trying to just everything that we've worked for, and a lot of the people that we all care about that are doing the work. They're coming for some of the, they're coming for our people, and it just it don't feel good. I would say that it don't feel good to see that. So, shifting gears a little bit, are there any birds or ecosystems or research questions that are currently kind of fueling your curiosity or lighting a fire in you right now?
Yes, for sure. So what I would say is, because I would now work at the intersection of science and policy, I've never worked in policy ever. Science, policy, and management, I'll say. It has exposed me to where inequities I guess, manifest social inequities that yield realities like what Dr. Deja Perkins has uncovered about like where the data is and where it isn't. I've seen how that then impacts conservation decisions. And I remember being on calls, more than one, several calls where I'm hearing from like federal agencies about, hey, here's our new prioritization tool to help you, state agencies or whomever, prioritize where you do conservation. And it's based on data, especially participatory science data. And I'm seeing our communities get passed over for conservation investment, essentially based on these prioritization tools, because there's not data there, not because there's not birds or wildlife, but because there's not information. And Georgia and Atlanta in particular are such a great example of this for me, because Atlanta we call ourselves a city in the trees. It is one of the most forested cities in the country. And the biodiversity in like the predominantly Black parts of Atlanta, like Southwest Atlanta, SWAT, shout out, but like is crazy, right? And I lived in Southwest Atlanta for a while. I live in West Atlanta now. And so I knew just from living there that the bird diversity is popping out this world, like incredible. If you were to look at the eBird map, you would assume there was nothing there and that all the birds were in Buckhead, in the rich, wealthy, white parts of Atlanta. And so I always, whenever I see a new prioritization tool come online, I zoom in to Atlanta and I look at Southwest Atlanta to see how it ranks. And it consistently ranks low. And I'm like, excuse me, this is one of the most biodiverse urban places in the country. And certainly relative to the state of Georgia, I know for a fact, because I just happen to be a scientist who lives in these places, this is inaccurate and it's going to make you pass over our communities and over our cities. And so the thing that I'm passionate about, Dexter, to your question, is the models and the tools that we use to understand the distribution of biodiversity, the distribution of birds, for example, bird diversity, bird populations. They're informed by skewed data. They're informed by biased data. I want to know, how can we rerun essentially these models, such as like habitat suitability models, right? So that we have an accurate understanding of where biodiversity is distributed and where it could be distributed. So our models can reflect reality. Otherwise, we're going to be compounding injustices and compounding disinvestment in our communities, ecologically, environmentally. I'm really interested in answering those questions and I'm trying to be able to get work funded to do that. And Deja Perkins is, I keep bringing her up because she's like always front of mind when it comes to this stuff. Like her LLC focuses on filling data gaps through community organizing, through working with communities, and they are collecting the data, not some white folks parachuting in to fill the data gaps because they heard there's a data gap problem, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that's kind of what's front of mind for me.
I love that you're bringing up Deja. Today is the first day of Black Birders Week, right, Jason? I mean,
that's right. That's right.
Why not talk about one of the co-founders of that movement and the amazing work that she's doing? So shout out to Dr. Perkins.
Shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, going back, Corina, you were one of the co-organizers, I believe, of the first one. And what was that like? Like, what was it like being in the room, being on the chat, being in the Zoom with the homies, trying to figure out what are we going to do? Like, can you walk us through what that was like? And I know it was a charged time, right? That was the spring, summer of 2020. So.
Yeah, I feel like it felt surreal because there were a lot of people, probably 30 something people who were actively, all of us putting our heads together about what could we do? What can we organize? It was surprisingly a very organized process. Like, it didn't feel chaotic, because if I were to, outside of that situation, imagine 30 people communicating virtually, trying to put on in 48 hours a week's worth of programming in a way that is like engaging, right? I would have imagined that being a very hectic process. And in many ways, I won't say it was hectic, but it was very organized, but it did, it created rubs and tensions, community organizing, whether it's in person for like a living community or it's virtual like that. It comes with a lot of interpersonal rubs that happen, right? But the thing that was created was so beautiful. And to me, I was shocked that something like that could have been created so quickly and with so many great minds, obviously, in the room. And I remember my adrenaline was so high from like how much we were just doing and thinking and producing that like I wasn't really sleeping. I remember I was like out in the field on these organizing calls. Like, I was literally in the marsh, sweating into my phone, like, you know what I mean? Blood all up in my speaker, literally.
Wow.
Wow,
it was
that's
just
awesome.
like, wow. But the great thing that did for me personally was it showed me that people can organize and people can organize fast. And it has since empowered me as a professional in my job or as a member of my community here in Atlanta or in any place where I'm part of a community of people. My expectations are way higher of what people who are passionate and care about something can accomplish when they're fighting for justice. And so I have changed the way I operate and what my expectations are. And I changed the expectations I have of other people. Like, yes, we can do this. It might seem like, this, we don't have enough time or we don't have enough this or that or resources. Yes, we can. We still can. And so Black Birders Week taught me that. And I'm so grateful to have been able to be among those folks organizing that first one, and especially because of how much I learned.
Love it. What's been one of your favorite Black Birders Week memories?
I think for me, it was, and I met Dudley Edmondson. That was the first time that I had, I think, heard of him and interacted with him during Black Birders Week. And I remember, I believe he posted like either Facebook or Twitter or something post that said in all the 30 or 40 years that he had been birding, he had never seen this many. He didn't even know, after decades, he didn't see or know that this existed. And I related to that because, granted, while the time of birding was much shorter for me, I also, I remember when I saw my first Black person like birds on Twitter, and I was like, I freaked out. I was in grad school. I'm DMing him wait, so you're a birder? It wasn't computing for me. Because again, at the time, I thought that birding I was doing that almost separate from being a Black person. And the people I was meeting were Blackity Black and they love birds. And I said, oh, okay, this is different than I thought. And so for me, when I saw Dudley say that, and that his experience had been what mine was for maybe a couple years, for 30 something years, I remember crying when I seen that because that moved me so much. And I was just so grateful that he and all of us were able to now have this community that was not visible because we were physically separated, and see each other out here.
Isn't that wild, though?
OG, man. He's gonna be on the podcast next week, Corina. That's so cool that That's so cool you brought him up because he literally will be the guest next week. So
I love this.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. You know what's crazy too? 20 years from now, there's going to be Black folks that when you ask them, do they know any other Black birders, they are going to have plenty of answers. And that part makes me so happy. Even just in Madison, Wisconsin, or Atlanta, or Philly, or Chicago, or Detroit, LA, San Diego. I know of groups everywhere now. And that is no longer going to be a standard thing that we are the exception to the rule. Right. We have kind of created our own rules. So that, I just want to bring that full circle because I think, again, shout out to Black AF and STEM because they literally have changed that dynamic. People will have different answers now. They shifted the timeline,
Yeah.
So that part, I really love it. I love it.
Cycle. Yes.
Yeah. And I, looking at that growth and impact, what do you see happening next for Black Birders Week? Right? What do you hope it continues to do in our communities and even beyond our communities?
I mean, my hope is that because Black Birders Week is a nationwide, international thing, right? It encourages people from anywhere geographically to participate. My hope is that people will tap in and build their community where they are during Black Birders Week and beyond. That Black Birders Week will be a springboard for people to be closer with their neighbors and closer with their communities intergenerationally than they were before because of birding, because of Black Birders Week. And so my hope is that it brings people together, it brings more communities together. And then one thing that I also hope for is it creates opportunities for young leaders to learn that they can lead. One of the beautiful things about birding is that birding can be a leadership opportunity. People who are knowledgeable lead birding trips, right? Lead bird walks, whatever it is. And it's doable by anyone. Anyone can do that. And I think that birding creates an opportunity for young people to develop leadership skills that is so unique because it's so infused with joy. And it can be so natural, if you love birds, right? And so I hope a lot more young people stand up as leaders and use the joy they have about birds to, like I said before, also bring people together, bring people along.
You know what? So I love that you say that because Saturday we're hosting our Black Birders Week event at our local zoo. And one of our group leaders is a 12-year-old Black boy named Roman.
That's right. Roman.
Roman's been coming to us since we started the club, and we've got to see him grow and grow and grow. And he's a leader.
Wow.
It's that, people always say, oh, if you can see it, you can be it. I like that. But if you can see it, you can be it and now do it.
Right.
is next level, right? To where now, not only does he see people like myself, people that look like him leading, but now he can see himself as a leader at a young age. And now he knows that ornithology is for him. Like he literally knows, like he said that he knew at age 2 he wanted to study birds. Like that, that's just how OG Roman is. And he shows up to our walks with like a pen and pad. He don't have no phone.
He's not playing.
He about that life.
He's not playing.
He really about that life. Like Roman, this is crazy. This little dude, he came to his first boardwalk to one of our first events, and he had a list of 20 warblers that he wanted to see that day. It was spring migration, and he was not playing no games. We got 24 that day.
Hey, there you go.
24 species of warblers that day. So he got 4 bonus warblers. But like he literally makes little notes, and he writes down things about behaviors, and like this little dude, he gives me so much life. Like every single time I see him, I hug him really tight. His little sister Willa as well. And I see these young black babies, these black and brown kids growing into an environment where they feel welcome, where they understand that, yes, like I love birds and like, it's okay. You know, like it's okay. Like, look, I got somebody that looks like me, that's supporting me, that tells me that I'm amazing and, you know, and supports it. He led one 2 years ago as well when he was only 10, but he's now going to lead it again. So he continuing to grow, and shout out to that leadership component is big.
And shout out to y'all for trusting young people. And I hope more people will do like y'all and trust young people and encourage young people to lead, because they do need that from, like, they need that from us. We have to get in that space. So shout out to y'all.
He brings a whole different energy, right? Like, and I think that's what's important. And a lot of the traditional spaces, they define these roles and like what a birder is supposed to look like and how you operate and all that. And then like, I never felt like I fit in. Like, I was like, this is like, you talking about untethered. I'm like, I'm up in this place. Like, these people want me to be quiet the whole time. I'm just saw 5 birds I've never seen in my life, and I want to scream. Like, you know, like I'm so excited right now. And I'm like looking at everybody like, nah, bruh, this ain't it. You know, this ain't it. This ain't it. Time to create a new space where we can be ourselves.
Look, the sing and let me sing.
Yeah, they sing and they don't care. You know, it is so fun because I always tell people, I'm like, man, I get excited and I see more birds than you. The science does not back up your assumptions.
Wait, that's cold right there. That's real right there.
I'm just like, hey, you know, well, can we talk about that for a little bit?
Let's talk numbers, right? Let's talk numbers.
Let me see your list, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because mine's probably a lot bigger. But yeah, it's so funny. Speaking of young people, you are a new mom. Huge congratulations to that. How has that experience changed how you connect with nature and think about your work?
Oh man. So I wouldn't call myself a kid person, right? Like generally, like I'm not someone who, don't put me with a bunch of kids. We'll just say that, right? I don't know what I'm doing really. Kids, as far as emotions, are tough. So when I had a child, I was like, oh shoot, like I'm not the kid person. Like, what am I going to do? It was a whole bunch of fear going into it. I'll be honest, a whole bunch of fear.
Sure.
But then once he got here, and of course you get past that, some people call it the 100 days of hell at the beginning. You know what I mean? This is not to put fear in anybody's heart, but it's hard. It's hard, those first set of weeks and months. Once he got a personality, but his personality was coming out and he could see, you know what I mean? They developed, his eyes and ears were working and everything. It was like I was already excited about nature. Like, you give me a good caterpillar, a good leaf, right? A good bird.
Let's go.
I'm on top of the world. When he starts noticing things, I'm seeing it for the first time. It's like, that's what it's like. It's like I'm living vicariously through his first time. Yes. And so now what I thought was peak excitement for me is beyond. It's like, man, like every little thing is so cool. And when I see him smile or get excited about a bird, right now we actually have Carolina wrens nesting on our porch, and Wendell, my husband, he's into nature now. He messes with birds.
Yeah,
now
you got him.
But the wrens are making a mess. They're dropping sticks and everything. And he's like, man, he's like, their house looks so ugly. Like, can they just clean it up? So we got that in the background. It's fine. But Malcolm, right? He's like, every time the bird flies past the window to go up to the nest, he's like, "Bee!" You know what I mean? And like just seeing his shock and excitement about this stuff just makes it all, it's like I'm going in for the first time again now. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I think that's been one of the most beautiful things about being a new mom is that you are seeing things again that maybe you've seen it become regular to me are now so new and so exciting.
That's awesome. Any new bird pajamas for the little homie?
So, look, don't like something. Don't be passionate about something because every single gift you will get for your child will be that. Everybody, I'm talking about when I was doing a baby shower, every gift, every book, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it. But when I tell you everything is birds,
let's go.
He ain't have no choice but to be amazed by birds. So yeah, he's got his birds and wildlife pajamas and books, and he learned his colors by looking at birds. Like that's birds are the vehicle through which he's learning a lot of things. So yeah, it's bird paraphernalia everywhere.
Awesome.
That's incredible. And it's the same thing, like whether it's our own children or our own families, little nieces and nephews and otherwise, or Roman or homies, families coming out. We had somebody yesterday at our bobolink outing, a young man that I have a recording of him seeing the bobolink for the first time on the fence. And I can hear him, like the camera's on the bobolink, but you can hear him in the background like, oh, I see it. It's right there on the fence. You can hear his dad and his mom encouraging him. And it's just like, it's the same thing. It's this, like watching someone else experience bird joy for the first time that's the juice, man. That's it. So I wonder, like, have you been getting out? Have you had a bird that's like blown your mind recently, or like a bird experience, even if it's a bird that you've seen often, but you saw a different behavior or something? Like, how has that been going? Are the birds still filling you up down there in Atlanta?
Yes, they are. I'm not going to lie to you. It has been difficult to get out as frequently as I did before.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
Understood.
And it has a lot to do with work, but work plus a kid does make it hard sometimes. But when was this? Yesterday, me and Corvita Raven, who leads an organization called The Streets is Calling. If y'all don't follow her, follow her.
Yeah.
Dope. Anyway, I was co-leading a bird walk with her in Washington Park, which is a historically Black park, first park in Georgia where Black people could recreate, right? So I have worked with someone named Miss Christy Jackson, who leads the conservancy for that park and she's feeding everybody. She's giving people free shots for their pets. She's the person out there, right? She's blood, sweat, and tears in that park, right? And we have I've worked with her to lead bird walks in the park. And yesterday she got stuff to do. So sometimes she can't come to the bird walks. And yesterday she just came to drop something off for me. And she was going to go home after that because she had stuff to do. Tell me why a juvenile red-tailed hawk flies at head level through the trees and lands right next to us, right? She's like, oh, we're all freaking out, right? She got her phone out. Look. And she was like, I'm supposed to be going home, right? It doesn't stop there. The bird then flies even closer, lands on this sunny branch, and starts sunbathing. We all lost it. She said, I guess I'm staying on this. She said, I guess I'm attending. We stayed out there looking at that hawk for probably 30 minutes. The hawk was preening. There was feathers flying off of it as it was preening into the sunlight and the wind. It just was such a beautiful experience.
That's incredible.
And what I've come to appreciate, I've always appreciated this, but for me, it's not like the number of birds that I can see. But when I'm able to watch a bird for that long, that's what feels like the bread and butter for me. That's where I feel so much joy, when I get to just watch it for a while. And juvenile hawks, especially red-tailed hawks, they are interesting. They're not as, if you drive up under them, run up under them, they don't care. They'll go down on the ground, play with sticks, right? They're doing their thing. But I would say a funny thing that happened, right? So when people would drive up, because there was like a softball game going on behind us, right? People would drive up, I'd be like, yo, there's a hawk. Look, there's a hawk, right? And people were generally like, oh, wow. This one dude, this black dude, he parked his car right below where the hawk was. He didn't see it. Him and his wife get out. And I go, sir, look, there's a hawk. He goes, oh, all right, tells his wife to get back in the car. He gets back in the car and drove. And I'm sitting there like, wait, that wasn't. He thought I was warning him. He thought I was like,
get out of here.
I'm like, wait, no. So it's really for me like opportunities to get in my communities, the communities near me, my own, the ones near me, and just be in that joy together. And Miss Christie, like she loves the wildlife, and she tries to connect the rest of the community with the wildlife. And we walked over to the softball game, and it's been Black softball leagues there for 100 years, literally. They've been playing in this field, and they saw us birding, right? This ump comes over. He's like, oh, I'm talking about clean. I'm talking about clean ump, right? So you got the big clean. He's like, excuse me. So we go across the street to him. He's like, I got some hummingbirds in my yard. I don't have as many this year as I had last year. Why do you think that is? Is there anything I can do to like encourage more hummingbirds to come to my? And so it's like 5 of us Black women. It was all Black women, situation, and we're all giving him different tips, ideas. And he was just so excited. He was like, Thank y'all. Like he just was so and it's just so different when we can just be outside with each other. In our community, whatever we're doing, if it's a barbecue, if it's a sports game, if it's whatever, right? Birds are everywhere, and we can enjoy them anywhere.
That is fantastic. That is so dope. Corina, you've done a lot. You've accomplished a lot in your career. What's next? Are there any upcoming projects, ideas, dreams you're excited to chase?
That's a hard question for me. I'm going to be honest. It's like right now I feel like I'm in survival mode with this administration. I feel like my creativity is a little stifled. Like I feel like I'm constantly just trying to understand what's going on and like be aware. And so it's been hard for me to dream and think about my future. What I will say is that I do want to go back to school. Like I want to go back to school. I want to be able to have the freedom of creative thinking and asking questions and like doing research. I want to do that at some point in my future. I want to work more with municipalities and state agencies. So state wildlife agencies, they're tasked with stewarding the biodiversity of the state. But unfortunately, they've really been like an old boys club. Like they really they haven't messed with Black people like that. Cities, right? Like they're just, the demographic they serve has never included any community I've been in. And so I've been trying to, in my job, work with state agencies to like get them to like through different various ways. Like how can you prioritize Black and brown communities and urban communities more? And I've been doing that in my community and with the state agency here in Georgia. And the opportunities that have unfolded because I live here and the work that I've been able to do on an interpersonal level, like with the people I live with and the state agency and the city, like have given me ideas for what might be possible in other states, how other states can collaborate with their cities and with other, diverse communities. And so when I can come up for air a little bit, I think I want to think more creatively about that. Yeah, I would say right now, I'm honestly just trying to get through and doing what I can to like be in coalition and be with people who are as motivated as I am, as I don't want to say angry, but as motivated, as driven to like solve some of these issues as I am, who are passionate, justice minded. And that's where I get my life right now. So I think that's what my answer is.
It's a lot of people feeling like you right now. It really is. Like I hear that from a lot of folks. And I think where folks are finding a respite is in that community that you talk about, trying to be around people that are driven and passionate about this stuff. So continue to seek those spaces so you can at least charge up the battery a little bit to keep pushing through as we try to get through this, because it is real. What we're going through is real. So
thank you, Dexter. Yeah.
And so, Corina, thank you for being with us. And we have we're in our 3rd season here and growing our audience. Our homies are out there. Is there anything in particular, if you had to say one thing to our audience, any piece of advice to give them moving forward, whether it's for this year or for this next 4 years, what would you say?
I would say that endurance it's really important to think about endurance, longevity, and it can feel very tempting to give everything every time something crosses your desk or crosses your screen, emotionally, mentally, to give everything to that thing, right? And it is important to take action when there's gross injustices going on, like what's happening in Gaza or what's going on in Memphis or whatever, right? Like to act, right? But I think one of the great things about being in a community of activists or a community of organizers is that I saw someone, I can't remember who posted this or who shared this, but like you can rotate vigilance. So you don't always have to be the one that's on. Like if you're in a community of people, you can pass the responsibility of watching and reacting to someone else, and you can take a breath, and then they can pass it to you, and they can take a breath, right? Like you can have this you're not constantly on all the time.
Yeah.
And when I saw that post from, it was a black led group that does like community organizing. Again, I can't remember the name, but the first thing I thought of was that's biomimicry. I was thinking about meerkats because I used to work in zoos. So I would see meerkats a lot, and that's what meerkats do. Like they rotate vigilance. Right, exactly. One meerkat will be up and looking around, but it's not always them. Then it's somebody else, and they can go about their business, get some food, get some water, whatever. And like that's how their group is able to kind of sustain through constant onslaught of predation, constant threat of predation, constant threat of, harm. So that's what I would say. Like, make sure, don't try to do activism on your own. Be with other people who care as much as you do.
Got to protect your peace. That's a great way to do it. To be able to breathe sometimes is really important. All right. Before we let you go, it's time. We're going to do something a little new with you today. And I was like, we got Corina on. We got to do something a little different. It's time for a little rapid fire. All right. So just say the first thing that comes to your mind when we ask you these questions. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. All right.
She's so nervous.
All right. One bird you still haven't seen, but you need to.
American avocet.
Ooh. Okay. Favorite bird call or song?
Wood thrush.
Oh, that's a gangster one too.
Favorite nature sound that's not a bird?
Ooh, spring peepers.
That's a good one. What's one thing you always have in your field bag?
It used to be a machete, but then TSA took that.
Can't be out in these streets like that.
I didn't even know I had it in my bag. I went through TSA Atlanta. Usually I'd be letting anything through. They see that knife, they say, "Oh, this is."
Oh no.
Shout out to TSA.
What's the best burning snack or your field work fuel?
The Chester's hot fries.
Tremendous too, with a nice cold sweet iced tea. That would be great. Your dream fieldwork location.
Ooh, honestly, I want to go back to the coast. I can't believe I'm saying that because it messed up my hip flexors, but I want to go back to the coast.
Go with what you know. Let's do it.
What's a non-science hobby or a joy that you have that might surprise people?
I play piano. I've played since I was 4. I love playing piano.
That's probably so dope too. Awesome. All right, last one. A bird you think deserves way more love.
Ooh, all sparrows. I think I'm going to say all sparrows. And when I saw the theme of Black Birders Week this year, I was so excited because I was like, finally, people giving sparrows the airtime they deserve and the appreciation they deserve. They're fascinating. They're beautiful. And I won't say every, definitely not every. There have been many white folks who call them, what do they call them? They call them something. It's some sort of acronym.
Little brown birds.
Yeah. And I'm like, excuse me? They all have an identity. They're all different. Like, let's appreciate their difference, their uniqueness, right? So when I saw Black Birders Week's theme, I was like, this is exactly yes. So sparrows all around.
Perfect. Corina, thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, and your joy with us today. Where can folks follow your work and stay connected to what you got going on?
Thank y'all so much for having me. Again, so honored. I've been more on LinkedIn these days if you're in the professional sphere and want to connect there. Lots of job postings, I'll say that. But Instagram is probably where I'm most active these days on non-professional social media. So hood__naturalist on Instagram.
Let's go. Awesome. Thanks again, Corina. Having you on the show has been an absolute joy. Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to start Black Birders Week. I'm editing this today. I'm so fired up. This got me so excited. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is what I needed to power me through the next several weeks and months. So thank you for inviting me and for taking the time.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace.